Timothy Wu and Mitchell Garrant. Sultai midrange versus Azorius aggro.
Sultai midrange, of course, up a game. The other two matches were split between the two teams. And there you see Timothy Wu leading with Sky Marcher Aspirant. Mitchell Garrant has the response of Tapped Watery Grave. Tim Wu with a follow-up 1-drop in the form of Dauntless Bodyguard. Going to attack for 2. Mitchell falls to 18. Mitchell's going to untap that Watery Grave, take a draw.
Looks like Timothy actually has a Baffling End in hand, which is a phenomenal answer to something Wild Growth Walker here in the early stages of this game. Wild Growth Walker, a particularly strong tool for these Sultai midrange decks to not only stifle the aggression by putting up a decent-sized body with high toughness, but also potentially gaining a lot of life if the Azorius deck doesn't have a removal spell.
Timothy Wu with 3 Baffling Ends in the post-board games certainly knows that this is a key point of interaction. Also 3 Tocatli Honor Guard floating around, a Disdainful Stroke, 3 Negates, a Spell Pierce. I think there's a lot of options for Tim here. It wouldn't surprise me if he's bringing in a load of cards and getting a lot better in post-board games.
Got the spotter there giving them the right dice for the history of Benalia. When you're going over the history of the plane of Benalia, you need to have the right equipment, and that is the correct dice.
Absolutely. Never leave home without the correct dice. Follow-up from Mitchell here. It's Golden Demise. That's a good one.
Wee. I haven't seen that one in a minute.
Interesting to see that instead of Cry of the Carnarium.
Yep, and the Exile ability is pretty good against the Afterlife creatures, but you can get into some really sticky board stalls with this Sultai midrange deck against the Azorius aggro deck, and something like the Ascend on Golden Demise is quite good at keeping your creatures alive while taking care of most of your opponents.
You see that card showed up just in time. Tim Wu pumping up one of the Night tokens with Venerated Loxodon. A decent follow-up considering just was Wrathed, essentially. Board is present right now.
Seems to be a lot of arguing over which color of die to use. Branch Walker here, going to put a counter on the Wild Growth Walker, explore a little deeper, gain 3 life. Adam Wallace's life total not really in jeopardy. Timothy needs something big over the next few turns.
Branch Walker going to draw a land. Plays a Breeding Pool, tap, passes back to Tim. Tim's going to take a look at the top of the deck. And there goes History of Benalia, making that Knight into a 5/4 Vigilance creature for this turn.
Yeah, and here's a spot where I think we're ready for battle. Baffling End going to take care of that Wild Growth Walker. The Knight has 5 power coming in with Vigilance. The Luxon 4 power. That's a swing for 9. Going to send Mitch all the way down to 12 if he has no blocks.
Big creatures coming to rumble on that turn.
Important to note, no access to blue mana currently for Timothy Wu. Does he have those sideboard cards in his deck? Does he need access to blue mana? We'll find out soon enough.
Let's see what Mitchell has here. It's a Jade Light Ranger. Let's do some exploring, see what the top of the library yields.
Now we're going to keep that one twice.
There's Mrs. Crassus ready to enter the battlefield and do some damage very soon. Mitchell just going to make the big Jade Light Ranger, pass the turn back to Tim. Takes a peek at the top of the deck. Conferring with his teammates. Tim going to play the 5th land. 5 lands is a lot for this white aggressive deck.
Yeah, a second Baffling in, though, going to take care of that 4-power creature. We're going to swing in this time for 11. If no blocks for Mitchell Garrant, that's going to send him all the way down to 1. Oh, nope, I messed up. Forgot the History of Benalia last turn was pumping. So this is an attack for, looks like, 9.
Yep, potential attack for 9. I think Mitchell's going to look to do a little blocking here. Yes, absolutely. Going to protect the life total a little bit. Just takes 4. Going to fall to 8. Big turn for Mitchell coming up. Yep, here we go. Crassus 4/4, drawing 2 cards, gaining 2 life, goes back to 10. Has a blocker for the Marshal. The other creatures size fairly well into the Crassus. The Venerated Loxodon bigger. Knight able to trade, so we'll see what happens on this next turn for Tim.
Yeah, my guess is
removal spell, very big deal here.
Yeah, absolutely. Another Baffling End, a Conclave Tribunal. These cards should seal the deal.
Tim takes a slow peel. I don't think it's a removal spell. We would have seen the windmill slam there.
Oh, yeah. There's no slow rolling in this spot. Not with a Game 3 looming and the whole match on the line.
Tim does make those attacks with the creatures capable of trading with the Crassus.
Chooses to soak it, going to 1 life. What's the follow-up here for Timothy Wu? Can he deploy another threat? Is there a finality coming next turn?
Have to think so, right, with that decision by Mitchell.
Finality is the bane of these Azorius aggro decks, cleaning up all these creatures. It is the sole reason why they started playing things like Tithe Taker over Dato Vanguard, things like Hunted Witness over a lot of these other 1-mana options.
I see Thrashing Brontodon, 2 lands. I'm not entirely sure what the other card is.
Well, if he turns Hydroid Crassus sideways, you got to bet your bottom dollar that's finality's coming, but doesn't look like it's there. We got to put up 2 roadblocks here to make sure we don't die in combat.
Here's the first. It's a Jade Light Ranger.
Now we're digging for finality and another Hydroid Crassus.
Lots of lands going to hand. I know there's a follow-up in Thrashing Brontodon available for Mitchell. There it is. Enters the battlefield. Can make some blocks here, but the clock is now ticking with Mitchell on 1.
Yeah, and if Timothy's able to just provide another creature onto the battlefield, that can force basically Mitchell to have to do the same next turn. Timothy can seal the game here with a removal spell on the Hydroid Crassus.
Tim's going to have to think carefully about attacks here.
If he decides to just ship in with both of the larger creatures and hold back the Banash Marshal, there's going to have to be a double block and a trade, I believe. Oh, no, actually, there is not a double block and a trade available here, is there? Yeah, there is. But it would actually clean up the entire side of Mitchell's battlefield. So the Thrashing Brontodon and Jade Light both double block on the Venerated Luxodon, but that's only 5 toughness combined there.
I think you make the other blocks. You double block on the lower power creature.
Well, it's only a 4/4. You could just trade that with the... oh, I love this play. Using the Thrashing Brontodon as a chump blocker.
3/3. Yeah,
and
great
gets
play.
to trade that for the 3/3 off of the Baffling End. Heads up spot by Mitchell Garrant for sure.
Yeah, that is a big difference maker. And now Mitchell has some more turns to take a look at the top of the deck.
To Cotley, Honor Guard.
Nice follow-up there from Tim.
Absolutely. And this will potentially shut off any sort of life gain that Mitchell could follow up with something like Wild Growth Walker.
Begging for fine finality off the top.
What was it? I want to know. Flash me. Is that Doom Whisperer?
I think Doom Whisperer.
That's a big boy.
And here comes the Doom Whisperer. Again, Mitchell just looking for effective blocks here. Finding a way to stay alive, trying to extend the game, trying to draw to that powerful sweeper effect.
Yeah, looks like basically no
Tim's
good
reaching for
attacks.
some mana.
Woo!
Here's a Baffling End, and that does it. Mitchell had flooded out. We're going to go to a game 3. Wow. It seemed like Mitchell was in a pretty good spot for a while there. I think the top of the deck was just unkind. Mitchell kind of giving a little shake of the head there, saying, yeah, we just got a little unlucky maybe.
Yeah, Timothy's draws there, very good in the early turns. Had basically 1 turn of stumbling that gave Mitchell a chance to claw back into it. He made a great block with the Thrashing Brontodon and kind of trade that chump block and still kept a 3/3 around after killing that Baffling End. Couldn't quite hang on, though, as Timothy finds the removal spell, seal the deal. High
pressure spot here as this match goes to a deciding game 3 in the 3rd and final match.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about what Tim Wu may be doing post-sideboard. We saw the Baffling Ends play a tremendous role there. If you want to take a look at the sideboards, head over to Cardboard Live. You'll see exactly what the players are working with. Why don't we take a peek on our end at what Mitchell is doing? A few options there. We saw Golden Demise have an impact on the game. Really purposeful, meaningful choice to play Golden Demise over Cry of the Coronarium for Mitchell. What other stuff you like in the sideboard? I think we saw the Doom Whisperers come in. Those are not main deck inclusions.
Yep, Thrashing Brontodon definitely came in as well. Yep. That's about it. The rest of the sideboard seems to be like an anti-Wilderness Reclamation / control package with 4 copies of Duress, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Negate. But Golden Demise, Doom Whisperer, Thrashing Brontodon, these cards can all come in and kind of replace some of the slower ends of this Sultai Crassus mid-range strategy. From the other side of things, Timothy Wu, we saw quite a bit of his sideboard options. He has 3 baffling in the sideboard, saw all 3 of those. 3 Nikolich Honor Guard, saw 1 of those. He has the option to bring in things like Negate and Spell Pierce, but I don't think they have quite a big enough impact in this matchup. Also has 3 copies of Ajani, Adversary of Tyrants. If he wants a way to potentially push his creatures out of range of Finality, I think Ajani is a good bet. But on top of that, if it becomes a very heavy removal back and forth fest, having something like Ajani that effectively can present 2 threats or help your creatures size up better against these larger bodies from the Sultai deck, I think both those things make Ajani pretty easy inclusion after sideboard.
I also think it depends a lot on how important Tim feels Nikolich Honor Guard is, because while it used to be lights out against the old Golgari decks, I think these Sultai decks have a lot more options. Something like Hydroid Crassus lets them play a longer game.
Right.
They aren't as reliant on doing the Merfolk Branchwalker, Jadelight Ranger stuff in the early turns. Not to say that Nikolich Honor Guard isn't a super effective card against them, because it is. It's just not as effective as it maybe used to be against the Golgari builds.
Yeah, I mean, Hydroid Crassus being a cast effect as opposed to an enters the battlefield effect does negate a bit of the strength of Nikolich Honor Guard, but as we saw in the previous match between Jim Davis and Ari Lax, it's still very strong. Shutting down Wild Growth Walker is a big deal. Turning off the Explore package to make sure that they maybe stumble on some of their land drops. We saw Ari Lax basically get stuck on 3 lands for a little while. He finally found the 4th land, was able to cast a couple of Vraska's Contents, but was just too far behind because he missed a couple land drops because all his Explore creatures got turned off.
Todd, what's going through your head in this position that Tim is in right now, where your teammates' basically hopes and dreams for this entire tournament are just resting on your shoulders? Yeah,
a loss here is basically game over for Tommy Ashton, Benjamin Nikolich, and Timothy Wu, with him on the draw this game after taking game 2. He's going to need a good one. He's going to need a lot of strong cards here, some sideboard cards especially, and he's going to hope to keep his team's dreams alive.
Both players having a chat with their teammates. Big mulligan decisions here.
Yeah, if I wanted anyone whispering my ear, though, when I was thinking about whether or not to mulligan, it would be Tommy Ashton. Dude is a master. Stone cold babyface killer. Look at that face.
Absolutely. If you don't know Tommy Ashton, he wins every Magic Online PTQ ever.
Yep.
Just 100% of them.
I believe the only reason he doesn't win all of them is because once he wins 1, he is no longer allowed to play the rest of the season.
Right.
He's Steinerson on Magic Online. He's been a fixture of the Pro Tour scene for over a decade. As long as I can remember, being a part of the Pro Tour myself and the Grand Prix circuit and everything like that, Tommy has been around. Old school master.
Yeah, I actually think the first time I met Tommy was at my first Pro Tour, and this was back in something like 2011, so been around for a while. You see Mitchell is on a mulligan 2-6. Going to draw the 6 here. Take a look.
Yeah, but the Sultai midrange deck actually mitigates mulligans quite well with things like Merfolk Branchwalker and Jadelight Ranger. A lot of times, I mean, you saw last game, the game ended with Mitchell Garrant still having 3-4 lands in hand. He needs to hit those land drops, obviously, but as long as his Explorer package is online and Nikolich Honor Guard is not gumming up the works, there's a chance he gets out of this mulligan pretty easily.
Yeah, great point. Those Explorer creatures are fantastic at mitigating early mulligans. There you see a Legion's Landing from Tim Wu, getting onto the battlefield very quickly.
So no green mana yet from the Sultai midrange side, but I thought I saw Golden Demise hanging out over there in Mitchell Garrett's hand. We'll see how Timothy Wu wants to play these opening turns. How exposed does he want to make himself to something like Golden Demise here on turn 3?
Definitely a big decision already from Tim Wu. To what extent is Tim going to develop the battlefield? Here you see an attack with the 1/1 Lifelinger, going to drop Mitchell down to 19 as Tim rises to 21. The follow-up is Nikolich Honor Guard. Hope you weren't relying on those Explorer creatures to fix your mana.
Yeah, I mean, this is a weird spot because the Nikolich Honor Guard is very clearly a fine card in the matchup, but without access to a second green on turn 3, there's no Jadelight Ranger coming down, so There's a chance that Nikolich Honor Guard is not actually stifling anything. Then again, Mitchell Garrant could be a pretty mana-heavy hand that has Golden Demise, as well as something like Hostage Taker or Ravenous Chupacabra, and is relying on that on turn 4 to make up for this Tempo black hole that he's put himself in. Nothing on turn 1, 2, or 3.
I think you'd also just have to acknowledge that Tocatli Honor Guard is a 1/3 as well, so living through any Golden Demise that Mitchell may deploy. Here's a Dauntless Bodyguard. That's going to go ahead and protect the Tocatli Honor Guard from any spot removal spells. Does Tim have a follow-up? Yes, indeed. Loxodon. Venerated Loxodon.
It's just a 4/4, though. That Tocatli Honor Guard playing spoiler here for that really powerful ability that Venerated Loxodon can supply.
Still seems like a powerful play in this situation, and there's a little bit of anti-synergy in Tim's deck there, but I think overall he's happy to have a 4/4 on the battlefield in this spot. And you do see Mitchell's hand. It is stocked with Golden Demises, 2 of them, in fact. Here's a Snubhorn Sentry.
Yeah, there's 4 creatures.
And City's Blessing is met.
4 creatures about to rumble here from Timothy Wu's side, which is going to, even through the Vraska's Contempt, is going to transform that Legion's Landing into a Donto the First Fort. Vraska's Contempt going to eat the Tocatli Honor Guard, gaining some life, but he's still going to take a pretty big hit here for 7.
Yeah, but this Azorius aggro deck flips a Donto the First Fort. Now it's ready to grind.
Right, and it can fight through sweepers, it can fight through spot removal, and it can fight through board clogs. Making a 1/1 token every turn for 4 mana is pretty powerful.
Here you see Ravenous Chupacabra. Believe that's probably going to take out the Loxodon. It does.
The biggest threat that's there for sure.
And now those Golden Demises can maybe do some work for Mitchell. They can't take care of the Snubhorn Sentry. They don't do anything about Adonto the First Fort. They clean up any tokens, but there'll be more in the future. So I don't know if Golden Demise is going to be enough for Mitchell to hold the fort. I think the outcome of this game is still very much up in the air, though.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we saw Mitchell do nothing until turn 4 with the Vraska's Contempt, and then 5 on Chupacabra. He's still at 14 life. He's going to eat a token here, taking a chunk of damage. Looks like 6 down to 8. Timothy's going to gain a couple points and just keep grinding away on that Adonto First Fort. And he doesn't really have to apply anything else to the battlefield until Mitchell makes another play.
Yeah, I think that's right, but Tim has to be a little anxious. You really, as the Azorius aggro player, would love to end the game in those first few turns, especially given that Mitchell forfeited turns 1, 2, and 3. No plays in any of those 3 turns. Tim unable to really make that much of a dent in Mitchell's life total. This attack helps. It drops Mitchell even lower, down to 8 now. There you see Untapped Hollowed Fountain. That suggests that Tim has Disdainful Stroke, negate something that can mess with Mitchell's plans here.
Yeah, I mean, it could be Finality, it could be Golden Demise, whatever it is, it's probably getting countered here. An attack here with the Ravenous Chupacabra. Maybe it was a bluff. Shocking here, you know, his life total is pretty high off that Hallowed Fountain. And if he has a negate for this sweeper effect, Mitchell's dead.
Let's see. Here is the Golden Demise. Tim not windmill slamming anything. It was absolutely a bluff. First of all, great play from Tim Wu. Second of all, Mitchell says, I don't care. Here's my Golden Demise.
He has no choice. Right. He's basically bottlenecked into casting his spell. But that Adonto, the First Fort, still active. Snubhorn Sentry surviving. If Mitchell doesn't have a follow-up here, that's 4 power coming across, as well as just a continual churning out of 1/1 bodies over the next few turns.
How about a second Golden Demise?
I like it.
Cleaning up that Snubhorn Sentry?
I like it. Got to get that 3 power off the table.
Yeah. That's going to be a sticking point.
Yeah. I think the players are trying to guarantee that a second land was not played this turn. I am fairly confident one was not. We're going to make a 1/1 end of turn here. Timothy Wu is going to try to rebuild after that 2-card sweeper.
Tim, very happy to have Adonto the First Fort online right now, reliant on it in a game that proceeds in this fashion to be able to rebuild a board after multiple sweepers.
Yeah,
let's see what's left in Mitchell's hand. Just a tap land here. There's a second token. These tokens will end the game quickly if not answered.
Yeah, and this is why Adonto the First Fort is so powerful in these White Weenie decks. Not only does it count as a 1-drop threat, but once you transform it, you can ramp up to a more expensive, like 4-mana spell, like a Johnny, Adversary of Tyrants. But also as the game progresses, you get sweeper protection. You get guaranteed threats over and over and over.
There is Tocatli Honor Guard just in time as Mitchell chooses to buy back Ravenous Chupacabra with Memorial to Folly. Chupacabra enters, does nothing, just there to be on blocking duty.
Yeah, and he has to put up something. It looks like he is basically out of gas. He's going to need a finality and then some. Something like Hydrocrassus would be perfect right now.
Yep.
A main phase activation of Adanto the First Fort. This has to be some sort of convoke spell.
Let's see. Tim taps another mana. No, it's a second copy of Adanto the First Fort. Eventually, there's going to be an attack here. First, it's Legion's Landing, putting the token onto the battlefield.
All right, now the attack here is going to transform that Legion's Landing, and then the land from hand is actually going to allow Timothy Wu to make another vampire during Mitchell Garrett's instep.
Good mana maximization from Tim Wu there.
Yeah, he's going to take 3 points, losing a token. Make sure we clean that one off the battlefield. One of the tokens should be gone. All right, and that's going to do it. Just a Land World from Mitchell Garrant. Plenty of creatures coming back next turn for Timothy Wu, and his team's dreams of top 8 are still alive.
It is wild how much Legion's Landing has